Good morning. I usually do these, at least I try to do these like 11 p.m., midnight-ish, around there. But not this morning, no. I went to sleep yesterday at like 3 or 4 p.m. because, I stay up until my eyes start twitching. Right? Once my eyes start twitching, I'm like, okay, I need to go to sleep here. I need to go to sleep here. But here we are. I was watching this PewDiePie video about he's basically reacting to people's morning routines. So I woke up, took a piss, drank some water, had a smoke, pet the kitties, did just the tiniest bit of workout with no weights. I just stretched a couple muscles through like 3 sets of 10 punches, did a few kicks. That's like, yeah. It's my workouts are kind of like the snack diet, right? Where you just like snack all day. Except I only like snack every now and again. I'll do a little bit here and there. Anyway, we had somebody in the chat ask us to check out the Canadian Bill C-21. And this is all about firearms. And so I've already read through this one. And as you can see here from the table of contents, like this is the big part. Kind of a big part, smaller part, small part, small. It's not that big. It's not that big of a bill. But anyway, we're gonna check it out. This summary. I mean, like, this summary doesn't necessarily like cover everything in the law, in my opinion, right? But also in this bill here, it does some amendments to the Firearms Act that they got over there, and it's all like, ugh. Anyway, from what I can tell, this is all about prohibiting firearms, right? However, the firearms that it prohibits, it seems it's not like there doesn't seem to be anything in there that's going to necessarily criminalize or like, there's no like buyback program, right? What are your thoughts on Trump? I think he's got good policies. Trump's Trump, he's at least like real. It's not like a career politician. Those career politicians suck, right? And I'm not talking about just Democrats. I mean, they're Republican career politicians that suck, right? And so I like him. I like the guy. There you go. Anyway, we're checking out this bill. Now, this kind of, the language of this was really hard for me to understand here, right? Because it's talking about like defining a replica firearm, right? But then it also talks about certain firearms that do be prohibited, right? Now, this replica firearm part really caught me. It just held me up for the longest time. Let's look at this. It means any device that is designed or intended to exactly resemble or to resemble with near precision a firearm that is designed or adapted to discharge a shot, bullet, or other projectile at a muzzle velocity exceeding 152.4 meters per second and at a muzzle energy exceeding 5.7 joules. That's really like specific in terms of like the muzzle velocity. and the muzzle energy, and it's kind of just like, that's supposed to be a replica firearm, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but replica firearm would be like an old musket, I suppose, right? Or it's like a toy gun or something like that. I mean, they got airsoft rifles that kind of shoot faster than this, but those are actually pretty powerful airsoft rifles, right? And I know those airsoft little babies. They don't really hurt. At first, they might sting when you're like a little kid and stuff. You know, you might get them in your eye or something like that. But other than that, they don't really do anything. But I have shot at people with airsoft guns before. And I have caused my little brother to cry because it's just like we're having like an airsoft battle in the backyard. He's like hiding behind a tree, and I've got one of those like, it looks like an Uzi, but it's like, it doesn't fire like automatically. You literally have to cock each shot. So you hit people in the neck, kind of, it'll hurt a little bit. It'll sting a little bit. Other than that, it doesn't really do anything. But yeah. So what was it? The firearm that's designed or adapted to discharge, right? So if you take like an old gun and you modify it, then if you're exceeding this muzzle velocity or this muzzle energy, then it's going to be prohibited, right? Because that's kind of what they're going for here, right? And this section is where it really gets into it, where certain firearms deemed to be prohibited devices. Okay, so a firearm is deemed to be a prohibited device if it is proved that the firearm is not designed or adapted, but it's just if the firearm is not designed to discharge a shot, bullet, or other projectile at a muzzle velocity exceeding 152.4 seconds, or muzzle energy exceeding 5.7 joules. So it is proved that the firearm is not designed, right? So if a firearm is designed to discharge a shot, bullet, or other projectile at a muzzle velocity exceeding 152.4 meters per second, or muzzle energy exceeding 5.7 joules, then that's not a prohibited firearm, right? I'm guessing this is on top of like some other bill, right? Like the Firearms Act. Back when Trudeau, I guess it was after that shooting, and he just like decided to ban just like a whole bunch of guns. So I mean, fucking Canadians, man. Like, I feel like they just need to fight back a little harder against this. Don't not be so polite all the damn time, particularly when it comes to your government. That's my opinion. The firearm is designed or intended to exactly resemble, or to resemble with near precision. It's designed to resemble a firearm, other than an antique firearm. So we're talking like toy guns, right? But there's a little caveat there. The toy gun has to, if it's firing a shot or bullet projectile at a muzzle velocity of 152.4 seconds, or a muzzle energy exceeding 5.7 joules. Right? See, I feel like you could make a Nerf gun that exceeded this muzzle velocity. Right? That's kind of insane. This is kind of overboard, because the possibilities that are encompassed within this language, it's so broad that it's kind of insane, in my opinion, right? But this isn't even really like the scariest part of this bill. They got something about cartridges. If you alter a cartridge magazine, okay, Like if you're doing this stuff, then this stuff doesn't make less sense, right? Um, Placing the thing. Where is it? Application for emergency prohibition order. This is the big part. This is what they deal with mostly in this new bill before they get into the amendments of the Firearms Act. And so let me just read this to you guys. Any person may make an ex parte application to a provincial court judge for an order prohibiting another person from possessing any firearm, any crossbow, any prohibited weapon. So it doesn't even have to be a prohibited weapon. It can be a allowed firearm or an allowed crossbow. But, screw you. Restricted weapon, prohibited device, ammunition. Doesn't have to be prohibited ammunition, just regular ammunition. Like, even if they took your firearm, they got to take the ammunition too for some reason. Prohibited ammunition or explosive substance. It's funny how they don't add prohibited explosive substance, right? So, I mean, that honestly could include fireworks. That technically could include fireworks. Now, we're just taking it to the extreme somewhat, right? Most people think, oh, explosive substance, somebody's making C4 in their backyard. And it's like, okay, I'm not sure how many people are doing that, but all right. They got a real problem with people making explosives over there in Canada, huh? Or all such things. Such things, related to these things is what I hope they mean, right? If the person believes on reasonable grounds, there's so many unreasonable people, but they can reason it. But it's what's interesting is the use of the word reasonable grounds throughout this entire bill. That it is not desirable in the interests of the safety of the person against whom the order is sought. So this isn't about the person's safety who's making the application. No. This is for the safety of the person whom the application is made against. So you got a bow and arrow, and you got a neighbor who just doesn't like you. They saw your Trump sign in the yard. Of course, this isn't Canada, right? We're talking about Canada, but just say for some crazy reason, some Canadian put up a Trump sign in their yard, right? Some crazy neighbor is just like, oh, okay. I know that guy likes to hunt with a bow and arrow. So let me make this application, call up this court. And, it's in the safety of the person whom the order is sought against. It's like, basically what I'm seeing through this is that my main thought is that, you take somebody who's not pissed off, who's not, depressed, who's just living their life, doing their own thing, minding their own business, but they happen to have firearms, and they happen to have a crossbow. They're into that kind of stuff, right? And then, some person comes along and is like, you don't need that. You don't need that. So I'm going to apply to the court to have that shit taken away. Right? Now, there is a limit. Right? Apparently this stuff will only be taken away for 30 days. That's kind of what it goes into, right? For a period not exceeding 30 days, right? But this is for the safety of the person whom the order is sought against, or for any other person that the person against whom the order is sought should possess any such thing, or of any other person that the person against whom the order is sought should possess such a thing. I think the language in this is really weird. The language in this is just really broad. It's just kind of odd, in my opinion. There's something about it. It's not even for their safety, right? Okay, so the first part is for the safety of the person whom the order is sought, or if they just reasonably believe that the person shouldn't even possess such a thing, right? So it's just like your fucking neighbor sees you out there with a musket rifle, and you're just play fighting, imaginary war, Revolutionary War, or I guess what is it for Canada? It'd be like the War of 1812 or something like that. You're playing like cowboys and Indians or something like that in your backyard, right? And somebody just doesn't like you, right? And they put in this application, and they can say it's either for your safety or you just shouldn't even possess such a thing. You shouldn't even possess such a thing, right? Now, if, at the conclusion of a hearing of an application made under this subsection, the court judge is satisfied with the circumstances, right, that, okay, this would be to ensure the immediate protection of the person. He's going to make an order for the person to from prohibiting. He's going to prohibit the person from possessing these things for a period of 30 days, right? Now, what's interesting is at the end of that 30-day period, they do have a provision in here where everything's going to be returned to the person, right? Now, this is probably something that would not happen or rarely happen, but what I'm thinking there is that, like, say you wanted to kill somebody, say you wanted to murder somebody, but you know that they're armed, right? You only have a machete. They have guns, right? So it's like, dude, I can't go up against this guy with guns with my machete. Fucking kill me, right? So it's like, we go to the court here, have that shit removed for 30 days, and then within that 30-day period, I'll go for it. I'll attempt it, which is just really messed up. And that's just, once again, fringe. Probably not going to happen a lot, particularly in Canada, but it's a possibility that makes me kind of uncomfortable, right? Because the law, all kinds of things can happen, but we're just looking at these possibilities here. Now, so the period is not going to be exceeding 30 days, right? And so we get on the day the order is made. All right. Now, what's interesting is it's like, okay, any person, right? Yeah, any person. However, they have something in here where the judge themselves, right? Like any judge can do this, right? Let me see if I can find it. Well, let's just look over this next section actually, but we'll come across it. But it does. It's basically any person can make this application. Any judge can make the application, and the judge will set the hearing, right? So a judge has made this application against somebody. He's set a hearing in order to hear the person's defense. There's no way in hell that judge is going to think in the middle of that hearing, oh, okay, maybe my application shouldn't be applied here. Like, no, if the judge took the time to make the application against the person, he's going to continue on to make the order that the, firearms, bows, explosives, and ammunition that the person is in possession of, their property, they shouldn't even possess such a thing, right? So for 30 days, he's going to have it taken back. He's going to order that person to turn them in, right? So what was it? If a provincial court judge is satisfied by the information on oath that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the person who is subject to an order possesses, right? So this is like, if the judge believes on reasonable grounds that if the person possesses these things, then a peace officer he may issue a warrant to a peace officer to search the building, right? So then the police can go in and they can search your residence. They can search whatever they need to search, and they'll search through everything, and they'll collect all that stuff, right? If you don't turn it in and they believe that you still have stuff, they'll go in and they'll search, right? Now there's some pretty broad language in this one too, right? Peace officer search the building, receptacle, or place and seize any such thing, and every authorization, license, or registration certificate relating to any such thing that is held by or in possession of the person, right? So they say, search and seize any such thing. Right? That's going to be left up to the discretion of the police officer. Just the opportunity for abuse of this law is pretty open. It's pretty broad opportunity. It's like just wide open. Like, hey, everybody in Canada, if you know somebody who has a gun or something like that, now's the time to apply to have their shit taken away. And it's like, yo, they talk about for the safety of the person, but then they also kind of just, just on reasonable grounds, persons shouldn't even possess such a thing, any such thing. Like, it's just like there are people out there who just believe that only the government should have guns, which they don't understand that, like, the checks and balance system. And it's very interesting because they're like, they don't believe that the government could ever do anything to them, right? That the government would ever abuse its power over people, which, I mean, it's like, have you not watched any history channels? I mean, like, these are typically the same people that are accusing conservatives in America of being Nazis. Right? It's like, do you know what a Nazi is? Do you know what the Nazis did? Right? Because they kind of took everybody's guns, right? So, I mean, who's leaning in the Nazi direction here? And after they took everybody's guns, they then proceeded to, do whatever they want to the populace. And it's just like, no, that could never happen. That could never happen. It's like, it's already happened, like, multiple times throughout history. Like, what are you talking about? Right? It's like, well, that can't happen here. And it's like, it can. If it could happen there, it can happen here. It can happen anywhere. Right? That's why, like, you gotta just not try to screw around with this. Like, they don't understand, right? In my opinion. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what the mentality is, because I don't share the mentality. I don't. In my opinion, the more armed everybody is, the more peace there will be, right? Because some dude who wants to go and shoot up like a bar or something like that, if they know that everybody in there is armed, right, then they're going to be much less likely, because it'll be like, okay, as soon as I start shooting, I can expect, like, quite a few bullets to come right back at me in a matter of, like, seconds, if not minutes, right? Then they're going to be not, so inclined. But if somebody's like, if I start shooting, ain't nobody else gonna have guns, right? It'll be like that the beginning mission in Modern Warfare, where they go through the like airport, which I always that part always kind of like, I didn't really like that part, right? The whole idea of like going in and just like shooting a bunch of people and civilians. I was like, I mean, I get what they're kind of doing here, trying to like start a war and stuff, but like, I never really enjoyed that part of the mission of it. Anyway, so the search and seizure without warrant, right? So the previous section we talked about was the judge will issue a warrant, right? This next section is okay, so it's just really in respect of a person who's subject to an order. They've been told they can't possess any of these things. But if there's a peace officer that believes on reasonable grounds that is not desirable in the interest of the safety of the person or of any other person for the person to possess anything, the possession of which is prohibited by the order, the peace officer may, or the grounds for obtaining a warrant under subsection exist, but he doesn't really have a warrant, he can still go in and search for and seize anything, right? So they put out an order, right? And they're like, okay, turn your stuff in. And the guy's like, okay, here's my stuff. And the judge is like, I don't think you've turned everything in. Here's a warrant. Police officer, search the guy's house and seize anything subject to this order. Police officer goes in, searches things. Basically, serves the warrant. All right. But then, sometime later, right, say the officer's driving by the guy's house, sees the guy just kind of standing there pissed off because the government has seized all his shit. And he's just like, I think I might need to search this guy's house again. So he's like, hey, man, I'm here to search your house without a warrant. And the guy's like, are you fucking serious? At least I'd be like, are you fucking serious? I mean, there have been times when, what was it? I was in high school and I got pulled out of class. I got pulled out of English class, which actually was a miracle. It was an absolute miracle. I was not ready for that test. There was a test that day. I was like, oh man, I'm about to fail this test so bad. I'm about to fail this test so bad. And then the disciplinary guy of my school comes in and he opens the door. He's like, I need Patrick. And I'm like, yo, all right, yo. Like, I grab my stuff up real quick. And I'm like, see you later. I'll take the test another time. And I go with him and I'm like, yo, what's this all about? And he just doesn't say anything. He's being like real secretive. I'm like, oh, secretive, are we? And so he's just like, what? Like, okay, so that he thinks that I've done something wrong, right? But I didn't know. All I knew was that I'm being taken someplace. I'm being led someplace. I'm not really being taken anyplace. I'm going on my own volition, right? He takes me to this other guy who's like the main security dude of the school, which is like, it was like a school church thing. So he was like the main security guy for like the whole like church and school thing. And there's like 2 police officers in there. I'm like, okay, what's up? And they're like, we believe that you've stolen a phone because there's this girl who went to this other school who lost her phone, right? And she lost it like at this place that's like right next to my house, like right next to it. And so they're like, it's a felony to like steal internet. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? And they're like, can we search your bag? And I'm just like, I'll search my bag. And so I'm like, just pulling out, I'm like showing them all the pockets of my backpack. Like, dude, I ain't got no fucking phone, right? Like, I just don't have it. And so, they're like, what about that pocket? And I forgot that I had like this extra pocket, but I like kept like clothes in there after like PE or gym or football or soccer or whatever, like just change of clothes. And actually, I'm like, dude, there's nothing in here. Like, there's no phone in here. I don't have a phone like that, And then it's just like, huh. And they're like, well, we want to search your house. It's like, okay, man. But we got like a pretty large house. And back in high school, it was still a pretty big house, right? A pretty large property. And it's just like, come back home. Police follow me back to the house. I go to like, I'm like, here, go to the front door. I'm going to go inside, let my mom kind of know what's going on. Right. And I go inside and I'm like, hey mom, like front door, police. Right. She's like, what the fuck? The fuck's going on? And just like, yeah, I don't know. Right. So we go to the front door and, talk to the police and, they're like, well, we kind of want to search the house, but they're like looking around and they're just like, dude, this phone, if they took this phone and they hid it somewhere here, there's no way we're finding it. There's no fucking way in hell we're going to find a phone that's hidden here. This is not going to happen. And so they're like, well, it kind of shows that it's more on like the outside of like the perimeter of the house. And it's just like, okay, like, so they're like, well, so we don't really want to search the inside of the house. So we'll search the outside, right? Because at this point, they're like, there's no fucking way we're going to find this fucking thing. And so instead of like trying to search the inside of the house, they search like the outside of the house. They just kind of look and walk around kind of the perimeter of like the fence line where the phone was reportedly like shown on the Find My Phone app kind of a thing, right? And so they don't find it, right? But what's funny is our cat back then, like, it was a pretty aggressive ass cat, right? Like, one of the officers is like, do y'all have a cat? And it's like, yeah, we got a cat. It's like, dude, that thing scared the shit out of me. Like, I almost shot it. It was just like, oh shit. Because he was like searching and the cat like apparently like lunged out and like not really like attacked him, but like was like, I'll fuck you up, like don't come closer, right, kind of a thing. And the officer was like, oh shit. And so, I bet he has put his hand probably, was probably kind of going for it, but he's like, no, I'm not about to shoot this cat. Like, I'm not about to shoot this cat. I'll get in some fucking trouble if I shoot this cat. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we don't see it. Come to find out, they actually like did the same thing to my little brother. They like searched my little brother at the school, which my parents were really mad about because the school is just like there's like politics everywhere, right? But it's not like political politics. It's more like like class politics, I guess you'd say. It'd be like my family was more like the Beverly Hillbillies, right? People who like kind of have money, not nearly as much as the Beverly Hillbillies, right? But like acted like Hicks, kind of, right? Like kind of acted like Hicks, and so everybody else, is just like, oh, we're proper. We've been in this class for a long time. It's kind of like, all right, whatever. You're douchebags. You're not like decent people, kind of like which so that's just some of them. It's always a very like small amount. Most people they're chill as fuck. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. They're like, hey, nice, welcome, that kind of thing. But then there's a small group of people that are just like, oh, we're it's just like, okay, you guys suck. Like, you guys really suck, and your children suck, right? You raise your children that way. Anyway, this in this case, right? Like, this wouldn't be like, or the officer has to ask like your permission, like in my case, the officer's like, may we conduct this search, right? Or else we'd have to go get a warrant. In this case, officer would not need to get a warrant, doesn't have to ask. It's just like, you know what? I feel like you may have hidden something from me. I think I didn't find something the first time around. And I mean, like, the possibility for abuse of this section is it's there. It's there, and it's there in a big way, right? Because most people want to sit there and believe like, oh, like all cops are like good people, right? Well, no, not really, right? There are some fucked up cops out there. You know, there are people in every walk of life, in every class structure, in every industry that are actually kind of fucked up people for whatever reason. I'm not about to sit here and say, why they're fucked up. I can't do that because I'm sure I don't know what the hell. I don't know. I'm not sure of anything in that regards. All I know is that there are fucked up people. That's all I know, right? And so all I can think of here is like, yo, what if the officer like thinks something is what if they find something they like, right? And they can say, oh, well, this isn't safe for you to have. It's not safe to have gold or some shit like that. Oh, this painting, this is a real expensive painting. I'm gonna have to take this for your safety. You might want to sell it, but I feel like there may be something against that in this. But bribery, right? Like, okay, I'll search your house unless you pay me something. You give me your cinnamon roll. You give me a donut. Just anything. I think just the possibility for abuse here, where they don't have to obtain a warrant from the judge before researching somebody's property that they've already searched, right? So you just want to inconvenience them, right? You just want to be an asshole. It's just search their property, not take anything, not find anything, not demand anything, not extort anything, and you just want to like just be a dick. Which, like, how many officers do you know kind of just want to be dicks, right? Like, I'll tell you, the police in Albuquerque, New Mexico, not all of them are dicks, but I've definitely found more dicks among that police community than I found anywhere else. Right? Don't get me wrong, Houston's got their dick police, right? But most of them are just doing their business, right? I got stories of fucking police encounters, which I could share later on. But like, oh my gosh, some of them are just dicks. Others are just like they're dicks until they think that there's nothing really going on, and then it's like, okay, maybe I can relax and not be a dick anymore. But anyway, um, just this whole thing so far is just there's so much room for abuse, right? And anyway, so a peace officer executes the warrant or who conducts a search without a warrant shall return to the judge uh, who issued the warrant, or if no warrant was issued, to a justice who might have issued it. Right. So he's going to return to the judge, and he's going to return the documents. The things are the documents, right? So the things would be the prohibited, or not the even prohibited, just the firearms, the allowed crossbows, the allowed explosives, the allowed ammunition, and the licenses for such things. So this individual who they've sought this order against has a license and is registered and like is probably trained in using this stuff, and they're just like, we're going to take all that, and we're going to bring it back to the judge, right? So yeah, just any of the things or documents that were seized will be returned. And basically what these things are going to be doing is they're going to be I think they have like a chief firearms officer, I think, in Canada. At least I read that in one of these later sections, where like basically people who owned a gun like had to kind of like let this chief firearms officer like know, right? Because it's like in order to kind of transport the gun like around the province, well, they're generally free to transport the gun around the province, right? But they're not necessarily free to store the gun in like a business or like their office, right? If they want to store it in their home, they got complete discretion to do that. However, if you want to be able to take it to your business with you, right, or you run a business and you don't really have security personnel for your business, then yeah, you kind of need to let this chief firearms officer know. And I mean, I guess their job is just kind of like keep the information on hand, right? In case they need to respond to an incident at a business, they already know that like there's the possibility that either the owner or the perpetrator of a crime at said business may be in possession of this certain firearm, which I mean, it's Canada, right? Here in the States, I think it's more like you just assume the worst, right? You just assume the worst, right? You just assume that everybody's got something of at least a semi-automatic rifle or a shotgun, right? Or a pistol or something like that, right? You don't really assume that people have like a heavy machine gun behind the counter, right? Where they just like kind of set this bad boy up real quick and it's just like blasting 50 cal rounds out the windows. You don't really make that assumption, but you kind of start off with that assumption here. But I guess there it's kind of different. Anyway, so the things will be surrendered. They'll be brought before the judge, who'll, I guess, get a look at them, right? Now, any of these things, this is going to be dealing and returning this stuff, right? Any things or documents seized under these sections from a person who has been ordered under subsection 2 shall be returned to the person, right? And that's that 30-day period that they mentioned earlier. And any things or documents surrendered by the person shall be returned to the person. So anything seized, anything surrendered, all those things will be returned, right? Now, what's this interesting is like if there's no date like to the person, if no date is fixed under this for the hearing of an application, right? So if the judge takes the stuff, but he doesn't set a date for a hearing, then right after the expiry period, which is that 30-day period, right, then these things shall be returned to him. Now, excuse me, once again, opportunity for abuse here, right? Judge takes the stuff, doesn't set a date, has given the stuff over to whoever. The person's now got to go and get that stuff back, because if they don't want to surrender the stuff, if they don't want to give it back to the person, right? Because this is, a judge can do this, right? Like, if a provincial court judge makes an order under subsection 2, right? The judge, on his own motion, fix a date for a hearing and shall direct that the notice be given in the manner of the person whom the order was sought, right? So the judge themselves can make this application, right? I mean, they're any person in the first place, but being a judge doesn't exclude them from being able to make this application, right? Now, if a judge who's made this application against you, you've surrendered your stuff, they've seized some stuff, and he's just like, all right, I'm supposed to set a date, but I'm not setting a date for hearing. And it's just like, sorry, you're not going to get your day in court. And it's like, well, okay, how does one go about getting that stuff back? Right? I didn't see anything in this that kind of talks about that. Right? Like how am I, if I was a Canadian and I was getting screwed by the long arm of the law here, arm law, okay, yeah, if they were screwing me, right, I don't see a section in here that deals with how to get my stuff back, right? No form, right? Do I have to file suit, right? Like, if you were somebody who like was pretty poor, and I mean, like, how are you supposed to even go about it, right? If you've got money, yeah, you can fight it and you can get your stuff back, right? Chances are, if you have money, like real money, then they won't even take your stuff in the first place, right? If you're poor, however, how are you supposed to fight the government in this section with regards to these provisions and get your guns back, right? Like, say, like, one of the main ways you ate was having guns. I mean, just honestly, it's your property; it belongs to you. You don't even need an excuse, right? Like, oh, sure, you may like to hunt and eat food like that, which is pretty good, right? You just want it for self-defense, or you just like to having guns, right? You just like guns because they're cool, they're badass. They're loud, explosive little things. They're just like, bah, bah, bah. You enjoy it. You just enjoy shooting guns. You enjoy having a few beers with your buddies, breaking out the AR-15, and trying to hit your beer cans, right? Like, say that's the case. I want to become famous. I'd rather become rich, Steel Car. I'd rather become rich than famous. Anyway, if you're poor, I don't see anything in here that talks about how you're supposed to go about getting this stuff back if they don't do it. Right? Now, they talk about, okay, so like the date is fixed for the hearing, but no order is made against the person. Right? Which doesn't make much sense to me. Right? Where they fix the hearing, no order is made. I mean, this is all about an application for an order, I guess. So, right, as soon as feasible after the final disposition of the application. But here's the thing. All these things have been seized from you already. Right? So, effectively, if somebody makes an application, from what I can tell, is they're going to seize that stuff. I mean, if I'm wrong here, then it's just like the language of this has been so weird. And I read through this whole thing yesterday, and I'm just looking at it, and it's nice to read through it again, get a better understanding of kind of what I'm looking at here. Because after the first time reading through it, I was just like, oh my gosh, this stuff could be abused like crazy, right? But now I'm just thinking of these other things, these more I guess more fine detailed sort of things, I suppose, where somebody makes the application, right? They shouldn't have seized anything in the first place. I guess they're saying if the order made against the person is revoked, right, as soon as feasible after the day on which it is revoked, right? So that's what they're talking about there, right? But so, okay, they've made this order. In the case of no order, right, if a date is fixed for the hearing, but no order is made against the person, then why would they be returning anything? right? That's little subsection B. That's 7 subsection B, where it's like somebody's made an application. There's been a hearing for the application. No order has been given, right? I guess that's in the case of like the officer who's in cahoots with the person making the application decided to go. But see, the officer can't do that, right? Because if there's no order against a person, then an officer can't go in and search. That's kind of like the whole thing about it, search and seizure without a warrant, right? If the person who, in respect to a person who is subject to an order, right? So why would there be nothing to return, because nothing would have been seized, right? If anything was seized without an order, then there's a problem, right? And it's like, oh, we'll return it, right? Somebody's made an application. You've set a date for a hearing. I guess this person has surrendered their stuff before an order has even been given, which honestly would be the most fucking Canadian thing. It's just like, oh no, there's gonna be a hearing, I need to surrender my guns, Honestly, if you're Canadian, you own a gun, you're probably not thinking like that, in my opinion, right? I'm a Texan. That's where I'm coming. That's where I'm seeing this from this angle, right? The Texan angle. If you have a gun in Canada, chances are you're not about to hand that shit over without an order from court, right? Oh my gosh. But anyway, this doesn't make much sense to me, right? Because, like, why would anything be seized if there was no order made against the person? I guess necessarily, by law, nothing could be seized. Everything would have to be surrendered. But then again, I guess, I'm thinking, what kind of Canadian would surrender all their stuff before an order is made? And I'm just like, oh, no. There's probably like plenty of Canadians that would do that. Canada, you motherfuckers. Anyway, don't ban guns. Well, that's just it. This is Canada, and they don't have the Second Amendment. Ban bullets. Everyone's happy. Nah, fuck that. You need bullets in order to operate guns, right? Like, yo. Maybe instead of banning guns or bullets, what you should do is mandate that everybody should have a gun and should have plenty of bullets for the gun. They always say they're coming for our guns. No, we're not. We're just here for bullets. I mean, it's effectively the same thing, though, right? What was it? They did have something in California that got shot down where they wanted to tax like bullets. Bullets aren't guns. Yeah, but guns don't work without bullets. So it's effectively the same thing, big brain. Like, what are you thinking? Right? And, the military's come out with laser weapons, laser defense weapons. So how about screw your bullets? We'll just use lasers from here on out. Right? We'll be able to cut through your armor, cut right through you, and probably get everybody behind you too. You can throw guns, they hurt, yeah, but you don't want to break your gun, right? It takes a minute to get that scope lined up, sighted in, just right, right? You even like kind of lean that thing up against something wrong, and you get your scope kind of knocked off, and it's just like, shit, what's the use, right? No use whatsoever. You don't need a scope. You need some pits. I guess you're trying to say pitching practice. That's all. Yeah, you may say that, right? But if you're shooting from a long distance, which is typically where your rifle's going to be shooting from, right? You're not going to be all that great with iron sight, right? Not everybody's skilled with an iron sight. It's not a video game, right? Where iron sight is, like, no, it's not that. Yeah, pitching. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Like, what do you want us to do? You want us to go to more brutal, more painful methods of murdering each other, like in England, where they're just roaming around in gangs with knives, and they're just like brutally like hacking people to pieces? Is because, I mean, like, bullets are just cleaner, guns are just cleaner, they're not as painful, right? People aren't going to go through a ton of suffering before dying, right? So, you know, you might want to think about how much suffering somebody's going to have to go through in terms of self-defense, right? Some dude comes at my house with a hatchet or a machete, right? I take my spear out and I'm like, let's go, motherfucker. We get engaged in some medieval ass warfare, right? Where I gotta literally poke this guy to death, where he slowly bleeds out while he's swinging his machete trying to hack my fingers off or something like that. Like, they don't really think about this stuff. They don't really, people who are, anti-gun, they don't really think about, the suffering that's actually like negated by using guns and bullets, right? They just like, oh, it's such an effective means of killing. Yeah, it's far more effective than hacking somebody to death with an axe, right? If somebody's trying to break into your house and you guys then engage in a sword fight, right? Like, you're not dying after the first stick, right? You're not going down after the first stick. You're both going to be swinging, fighting for your life. And instead of being able to scare somebody off by shooting at them and missing, right? Because it's like, oh shit, typically criminals are looking for easy targets, right? People who want to do something bad, they're looking for an easy target, right? It's the same thing with wild animals, right? Most animals look for an easy target to eat. Most predators, right? If they can't find an easy target, right, and like a pack of wolves, right, then they're willing to fight because they're that hungry, right? Like a pack of lions trying to bring down a water buffalo, that's different. But you can see how long those fights last, and you can see how brutal they are, right? And everybody on both sides is getting fucked up. So, just the reality of the situation is it's cleaner and less suffering by shooting somebody with a bullet, but then, hacking them to pieces with a machete, right? Because most machetes aren't going to be all that sharp, right? Most like wood axes that people are going to have, or camping axes they're going to have at home, aren't going to be all that sharp. And most people have a hammer on hand, right? And they only have those hammers for, doing little quick jobs around the house, putting up paintings, putting nails in the drywall so they can put up a painting or something like that, right? You take away people's bullets, their guns are useless, right? You leave them with the only option of, let me grab my hammer. Now, the reality of the situation is, and this is true all over the world, including Canada, where a lot of the violence associated with guns are typically held by criminals. They were obtained by criminal means, right? So they weren't subject to background checks, right? They weren't subject to anything because it was on the black market. I have been in a situation here in Houston, right, back in high school, where somebody was like, yo, you want a Glock for $200? And I was just like, I don't really have $200, but that's a pretty good deal, And so you don't need to go through this process of following the rules, right? You can go to the black market. Black market's just as prolific as the actual market. Well, maybe not in terms of guns, but what we got here in Texas, we got cartels that actually take guns across the border, right? They bring drugs up, they sell the drugs, they take the cash, and they take the guns that they get, and they take them across the border, right? So that they can go back into Mexico and start fighting each other. And that's illegal. That's illegal market stuff. You know, we're talking a main kind of factor in this is there are governments out there that will sell guns to organizations in order to cause problems in other places. And then those guns will spread because they'll be selling those guns to other people. And those people will be selling those guns off, right? You know, for instance, I mean, I've heard it said that in Africa, you can buy like an AK-47 for the price of a chicken, right? And just the reality of the situation is there's a black market that exists. And, you know, if I'm going to be stuck here at home and my only means of defense is a hammer or an axe, right? And somebody's coming at me with a pistol, I'm going to have to wait for them to get pretty fucking close. And even then, the pistol's not like a rifle where I can get inside that rifle barrel and start swinging. Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by Mr. Ignan over there, let's go down. And so it's the return of the things, right? Like these things shouldn't have been taken. They weren't seized. They weren't legally seized. Most likely in this case, the Canadian went ahead and surrendered all his stuff before the order was even made, which once again would be the most Canadian thing. Now, definitions of that, a provincial judge, right. Provincial court makes an order, the judge is on motion, makes the hearing against the person, right? If the person, other than a peace officer, firearms officer, or chief firearms officer, made the application for the order to the Attorney General of the province the application was made, or the application was made in the territory, it becomes the applicant in their place, the application made, right? Just clarification of the application for order, right? Like, I guess they're saying that peace officers, firearms officers, or chief firearms officers, if a person other than made the application for the order, the Attorney General of the province in which it was made becomes the applicant in their place. So peace officers, firearm officers, and chief firearm officers. And okay, yeah, the firearms officers and the chief firearms officer guys, those are the ones who, you kind of need to let them know, like, that you got a gun at your business, right? That you have a gun that you take between your business and your house. Apparently in Canada, you just have to let them know, or else it's a felony, transporting a gun, right? But if they do that, then the Attorney General becomes effectively the one made. Okay, if I was an Attorney General over there, I'd be like, none of you, not a single one of you is allowed to do this without my okay. Because if you do, I become the applicant in this case, right? Now, it's like, of course, I'm from Texas. In Canada, where the Attorney General would be like, I'll stand by you guys, let's go out there and protect the community and save the world from all these bad gun owners. It's just like, bruh, like, pull that stick out of your ass. Pull it out. You got a problem. If you think that everybody who has a weapon wants to use it to kill people, like, you got a problem. Right? Sometimes it's just fun shooting guns. Right? Most of the time, it's just nice to have on hand when people are rioting in the streets in your city. Most of the time, it's just nice to kind of have on hand. Audio jack. Yo. What up? We're going through the Canadian Bill C-21. And it's just like, aye. If you are interested in this, by all means, at the end of the stream, go back and see what we've gone through, because we've already gone through most of the meat of it. Right? We've already gone through most of the important stuff. I'm not going to lie. Right now, we're just kind of getting into things that have to do with transportation. But, we're getting into the little tidbits here at the end here, the little morsels. Right? So what we just went over was if a peace officer, firearms officer, or chief firearms officer makes this application, then it will be like the attorney general of the province is the one who will be the applicant in their place, right? And I'm just saying that, like, attorney general, if I was the attorney general, I'd be like, no, none of you do it without my permission. Yeah, there is a gun bill where it's like past Congress, and they're like talking about expanding background checks and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't trust them. I don't trust them in the least. Like, they're definitely trying to pass something in the States, but like, these are people who, the same people who are trying to pass those gun bills, gun control measures, are the same people who raised money to bail out rioters, and the same people who wanted to release felons from prison because of COVID, right? And the same people who want those same criminals to be able to vote. You heard it bans ARs? I'll have to see. From what I've seen, or from what I've heard, rather, I haven't really seen anything, but from what I've heard from the channels that I watch that kind of discuss this stuff, that it's all about just background checks, right? It's all about just kind of expanded background checks. It's all about effectively. So what I heard from this one guy was, so when you go and you want to buy a gun, right? You're like, oh, you pick out your gun, you pay for the gun, and then you fill out like your background check information, and then they kind of just run it through a system, right? If they don't get like the green light like immediately, right? If they get like kind of like a yellow light, then it's like just hold on, wait, right? And so the waiting period was like 3 days, because there's typically like some kind of issue where like you might have the same name as somebody who's prohibited from owning a firearm, or you might have like a similar name, or like there might be just some glitch in the system where it's like, okay, you got to wait 3 days, but they've extended that 3 days to like 14 days, right? That's kind of what they did. And of course, if you get like if there's a red flag that shows up on it, then like, you got bigger problems. But that's typically what it is, right? If you get green lighted, then it's like you're good. Take your gun, go on home, have fun with it, right? I'm guessing you watched Beyond the Tags. No. I got that information from Langley Outdoor Academy, right, on YouTube, and also I watch Colin Noir, who's a big Second Amendment advocate, and he does a lot of debating and arguing with that. And he's a pretty big guy. He's sometimes on Fox News. Other times he's on other programs where they're trying to put up like some kind of expert against him and like debunk him. And so, yeah, that's mainly where I get that from. Other than that, I see stuff mostly from Congress.gov, right? So if I were to, go in and look at these bills, which I haven't really had the time to do because I have just been kind of covering the American Rescue Plan for like past week, something like that. And oh my gosh, the American Rescue Plan. It's got nothing to do with guns. There's no gun provision in that one. Yeah, it's all about just money on that one. Anyway, so Attorney General becomes the applicant, right? And judge shall order, as feasible, not later than 15 days before the date of the cause of notice of the application and the date for the hearing to be served on that Attorney General. So the peace officers make the application. The Attorney General becomes the applicant for that application, and then the judge has to notify the Attorney General that application exists. Okay. Thank you, Audio Jack, for the follow. Now, cancellation of hearing. judge can, if the judge revokes the order, then obviously there won't be a hearing, right? The judge shall cancel the hearing, right? Revokes the order against the application, against a person before the application for an order is sought, then the judge is going to be like that. But we're talking about Canada. Waco when? Well, I mean, like, I'm not sure. I'm not going to Waco, right? I don't plan on going to Waco for quite some time, right? If you want to talk about Waco, the shooting, right? Once again, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with Rye 87, is that most predators, including animal predators, are looking for easy targets, right? Yeah, but the FBI is going to bring Waco to you. The FBI is too busy being corrupt for the big banks, right? That's where the money is. Like Deutsche Bank or Dutch Bank. Yeah, one of the ones. But yeah, the FBI is more concerned with that stuff. You want to say that, or you believe that certain individuals are responsible for, with all their Deutsche Bank is German, with all their Nazi gold. Well, I think they are German. They're definitely headquartered in Germany. Nazi gold, I could believe that. I don't know how old the bank is, but yeah, no, the FBI is too busy working for those guys. Besides, they go after easy targets. A lot of people around here are not easy targets. Right? Like, people are armed. I got mine like right next to my bed here. Right? Which honestly, I used to not keep it next to my bed, but then we had like all these Black Lives Matter protests, and I was just like, well, fuck that. I'm keeping this shit out. I'm keeping this shit right here, motherfuckers. If I need to, I'm gonna pull that shit. Anyway. Anywho, and yes, like I said, predators are looking for easy targets to rile up a bunch of people, right? They're not looking to go after a target that can fight back, right? It's like the same thing with a hawk, right? For the most part, a hawk's not going to try to go after a kitten or like a small cat. It can potentially take out that small cat, but that cat probably going to claw the shit out of it, do some damage before it does. So mostly hawks are looking for like lizards, small rodents, things that can hardly fight back. Yeah, the poor Kyle kid. It's nice to see someone on Twitch that's not woke. Well, I'll be on here as long as I can, right? Because I think apparently Twitch and these other platforms, they kind of just kick people off, right? That aren't woke. And that's why you see people that are just all woke and stuff, right? Which, what is it? On YouTube, I don't follow the woke people. And whenever the YouTube algorithm tries to tell me they don't kick you off automatically, well, they got things. They got ways of discouraging you from wanting to be on. You get brigaded by the woke army. Oh, man. I've had several people like show up and ask me just weird questions. I feel like sometimes they pop into chat in order to try to get you to say stuff that would then get Twitch to ban you just by like reading their chat, right? Yeah. They do that kind of stuff, right? But if I ban them first, right, then I've got like people pop into my chat and they start like spamming something or like something that's just really not good, and then I'm like, okay, get out of here, right? Like, and I've only done that one time so far, and it was to one person who showed up and like created like a picture of an erect dick, and then was talking about how like Xi Jinping is like leader of the world, and I was just like, get the fuck out of here. Fuck off. Oh man, they're kind of fucked. The fact that they have CP on hand. Yeah, you know, it's pretty messed up stuff. Beyond the Tags actually got called some racist things from some woke lefties. Yeah, they think being racist for them it's like reverse racism, right? It's okay if it's reverse racism if we're racist towards the people we think are racist, or we're racist in a way that's supposedly positive towards the race that we're racist towards. Yeah, it's the rationale doesn't exist. The rationale does not exist. They don't actually use rational thinking on that side, which I discovered in my uh, stream where I did a while back, where I explored what fascism was, right? Because I've been called people just calling people fascist, and I'm just like, what is fascism, honestly? Because for the most part, I knew I wasn't fascist. And then after reading it, I found out the people calling me fascist were actually the fascist ones. And I'm kind of like, okay, you guys suck. You guys are the worst. You guys really are some ignorant trash. And it's just amazing how they're just like, oh, you're ignorant. Just Google it. It's like, motherfucker, I can find all kinds of BS on Google. Just because it's on Google doesn't make it true. Right? Like, you don't have any legit sources. You don't have, like, you're reading articles that don't mention any sources. It's just like, oh my gosh. It's frustrating, but at the same time, I do kind of enjoy it. By the way, did you hear about the teacher who got killed in France? Oh, Patel or Pate? Yeah, like the girl like lied to her dad about what happened in the class because she actually wasn't there. She got suspended, and she didn't want to tell her dad that she got suspended. And so then her dad like told some other kid, and then the kid like went, and then she and like a friend of hers like pointed the guy out to the guy who killed him. So they've been arrested. Yeah, turns out he didn't even show. Yeah, and the girl lied. Yeah, yeah. Yep, yep. Well, that's France. That's France for you, right? Like, I don't know. Like, they've been encouraging some things for a long time, so it's sort of like a reap what you sow situation. Unfortunately, right? It sucks that it happens to like good people, but then like the society in general sees it, and they're just like, yeah, that's fucked. That's fucked. We can't be doing that. And it's like, what is it on the Lotus Eaters website with Sargon of Akkad, right? Apparently, like they went through this article where Macron uh, labeled it leftist. It's Islamo-leftism. Islamo-leftism is what they called it, and it's basically like where you're woke, so you're going to like not do anything that's going to show the problems of something, right? And so it's there are definitely factors of any religion. Well, I say any, maybe not Buddhism, but like there definitely things that people do in the name of God that are just horrendous and horrific, right? And so it's just one of those problems of the world. We got to figure out how to deal with it. They should have done what Singapore does to break up racial ghettos. You have a quota for each race in public housing to enforce integration. Yeah, Singapore, I mean, honestly, like, I hear good things about Singapore, but it seems like it's just such a bunch of hard asses are running the government there. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the place for me, right? I'd be better off in the Wild West instead of, you know, kind of getting boxed in with so many things. That's not too bad. I mean, I guess if you're gonna have racial quotas. It should be in public housing. Excuse me. But at the same time, like we've had these mass immigration, right? And there are definitely agents out there that are encouraging these people to pick up and go, and they're lying to them. And I've seen it. I've seen the video evidence of it, where people get mad because they've been told that they're going to get a free Mercedes and they're going to get free $50,000 in the bank and they're going to get free healthcare, and then they get here and none of that happens, and it's just like, where's my stuff? Where's my free stuff? And it's like, bro, nobody gets that. You were lied to, right? You left your family behind based on a lie, right? Welcome. You know, they're hard asses, but they'll listen to reason. Yeah, I guess so. I don't really know. It's kind of like you can do whatever, but if you don't have a good reason, you're getting fucked. That's just it, right? Talk about reasonable. In this, they also kind of go reasonable. They use the word reasonable, and that's such a loaded. It's not a loaded word, but it's a manipulable word, right? Where it's like somebody's like, well, that's not reasonable. Like to you, it's reasonable. To them, it's not reasonable, right? And so it just depends on who you're talking to. You can have dissent against the government, but if you get called in to give feedback, you better be sure you have some evidence. See, evidence is nice, right? Evidence is really nice. It was actually pretty funny. What was it? It was Sargon's podcast on Lotus Eaters. There's this guy who I believe played the main bad guy in Blood Diamond, right? So he was the guy in charge of the rebel group that like took I forget the name of the characters, but he took the guy's son and like made him like a captain, right? And so he's the actor that played that part. But he did this documentary talking about how COVID-19 like is like racist, and how the institutional racism of England was what was kind of causing all this all the deaths, right, in the black community. And he was talking to this girl who's the head of like the equality office in England, and she's a black girl, and he's like, but the institutional racism, and she's like, look, if you can show me evidence for institutional racism, I just don't think it exists. You're gonna have to show me the evidence. Like, let me see the evidence. And he's just like, just got frustrated. He's like, we can't get them to admit that institutional racism exists, as he's talking to like, a black woman in charge of the equality office over there. And it's just like, what are you talking about? But yeah, no evidence. All the prosecutions for libel against the ministers so far is fully published, and you can see why the idiots were just full of shit, because the court hearings and minutes were fully public. Yeah, see, transparency will always be good. If you have transparency, then whatever happens, people can see it for themselves. They have evidence of it. A lack of transparency just creates this like shadow, and it's just like you don't really know what the heck's going on. And that's why it's nice to see stuff like this, right? Hold on, where was I? Application for emergency limitations on access order, duration of revocation or amendment, action repealed, cancellation of hearing. Okay, yeah, cancellation of hearing. Provincial court judge revokes the order. Thing in possession is prohibited by the order, revoked or amended. Any person may make an application to a provincial court judge for the order under this section if the person believes on reasonable grounds that the person against the order is sought cohabits with or is an associate of another person who is prohibited by any order under this act. Okay. So this is the kind of messed up. This is another kind of messed up part, in my opinion. All right. It's like there was a case where the Singaporean company was accused of illegal logging in Indonesia. They thought the Singaporean government would side with the company, but after evidence was presented, the company's executive was kind of jailed for 20 years. I mean, nice, right? Do you live in Singapore? I mean, it sounds like you live there. It sounds like you live in Singapore, and you're pretty happy with the situation over there. Um, yeah. Do you guys have gun bills like this, where anybody can make like an application to the court to have your guns confiscated for a period of time? That's what I'm kind of curious about that because I like guns. I like guns a lot. But this section here is basically like if an order has been made against a person that somebody lives with, then the same order can apply to that person, right? They have to make a new application, it seems. But yeah, if you a person against whom the order is sought lives with somebody or is an associate of another person who is prohibited by an order made under this act, a Parliament from possessing a firearm, crossbow, prohibited weapon, restricted weapon, prohibited device, ammunition, or explosive substance, or all such things. And the other person might have access to any such thing that is in possession of the person against whom the order is sought. So it's just like you can make an order. So if there's an order already against somebody, right? Say there's like a gun club or a hunting club, right? And one guy in that hunting club gets an order applied to him where he has to give up his stuff. Then everybody else in that hunting club is now subject to where like they can get applications against them. And just because they're associated with this other guy, that's reason enough for them to have to either surrender their weapons or have their weapons seized. Right? Which, in my opinion, is just messed up. But we're talking about Canada, not Texas. And, I mean, still messed up, in my opinion. They ban guns outside of shooting ranges. You can own a gun or export-import, but you cannot have it on your person outside of law enforcement or paramilitary. Usually we hop the borders if we want to shoot because the ranges in Malaysia are looser on rules. Damn. See, like we got different thing over here, right? Open carry. Open carry is kind of the thing here. Where literally like you can just don't have to be police. Just got it on your hip. You get it in your jacket. You can have you have to get a license for concealed carry, I think. But you can openly carry just anywhere here. Right? And it's just part of our rights, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Right. So, emergency limitations on access order. If, at the conclusion of a hearing of an application, the judge is satisfied that circumstances exist, that an order may be made without delay to ensure the immediate protection of any person. I mean, they say protection, but when you're talking about taking something away from somebody to protect them from that something, then, like, come on, you're kind of full of shit, in my opinion. Judge shall make an order with respect to the person against whom the order is sought for a period not exceeding 30 days. So there is a 30-day limit on this, as specified in the order, beginning on the day on which the order is made, imposing any terms and conditions on the person's use and possession of anything referred to in subsection that the judge considers appropriate. So just any terms and conditions. It's just, I don't know. It's too broad. There's too much, like, a possibility for abuse in this. And that's just what I've been seeing throughout this whole thing. Is just possibility for abuse. Service of order. Should be ordered and just, I mean, what the heck? A copy of the order shall be served on the person, like, obviously, that is addressed in the manner the court judge directs or in accordance with the rules of court. Like, yeah. Terms and conditions, not really anything of interest there. Warrant to search and seize. Again, search and seize. Warrant, we kind of already went through that. Search and seizure without warrant. The police officer doesn't need a warrant to search somebody who is subject to this order. Yeah, but had real problems with race riots in the past. Can we always get foreign insurgents and instigators? Damn. We have very competent law enforcement, so guns really aren't needed. Yeah. That's not really why, like, anybody, like, of course we have competent, like, law enforcement, right? But that's not why we need the guns, right? The guns are to, like, supplement any law enforcement, right? If somebody is going to break into your house or somebody's going to come try to kill you, you can call the police and the police will get there within, a certain amount of time, right? But you'll probably be dead before that time is up, right? By the time they get there, you could be dead. So it's just like, if anything, keep yourself alive for the time being by just firing a bullet every now and again at the person, right? Like it's more like keeping yourself alive in that case. It's not like, oh, well, I guess I'm dead. Wait for the police to show up. Like, no, it's more like you're responsible for your own safety in a way, right? Also, pretty much is a surveillance state, so crime is really hard to get away with unless you hop the border because reports come in. Nah, I get you, but our homes can't be broken into. Concrete with iron grills. Yeah, but not everybody. See, over here, right? Like seeing iron bars on windows and stuff like that makes you think that the neighborhood's not that nice, right? It's like, okay, you go around, you see a bunch of houses, and they all got fences and bars on their windows, and you're just like, this is a bad neighborhood, right? You go through other neighborhoods that don't have that, and you're like, oh, this is a nice neighborhood, right? If you are in public, there's police and guards everywhere. Yeah, we don't really have that. It's just a difference in culture. Well, yeah, maybe that. Also, I think maybe what you guys like have a much denser population, right? Over here in the U.S., things are really spread out, like really spread out, even in the cities. Like you may have a police officer that's like a few streets down, right? But you don't have one like on every corner, right? Which I'm for the idea of somebody kind of on every corner, right? Because we do have problems that would solve, right? Because sometimes you'll be out and you'll be out with your friends, a group of friends, and just like this random girl will walk up and she'll be like, hey, can I like join y'all's group of friends and like pretend that like we're friends because I'm being followed? And it's just like, hell yeah. And then like I'll try to see who the hell is following her. And I've made eye contact with some motherfuckers who's just like, dude, fuck you. Like, you're fucking following this bitch. Go fuck yourself. Right? If I had my gun, I'd probably do some shit. Which would probably cause some shit. And, I'd probably be stuck having to go through the system for a little bit there. But, like, no fucking way, dude. So it's a lot of, like, everybody's kind of expected to kind of follow laws around here and help enforce them in some cases. Even in gated communities, there are grills and gates. Well, you see, yeah, like if we don't have that, really, I mean, it just doesn't look nice necessarily. It's like, I don't know. It's an aesthetic. It's an aesthetic thing. It's an aesthetically pleasing thing, right? I guess we would rather not have bars on our windows and stuff. We'd much rather just have a gun behind that window, right? Because things can look nice at the same time. It's just like you try to bust in, there's a real possibility that you're going to be shot or shot at least, right? And I mean, I kind of like that. I don't really want somebody like trying to, wiggle some iron. Like just try it. It's like, well, I won't die if I try, versus if I try, I might die. So I'm probably ain't gonna try. I think there's maybe just a little bit more of effectiveness in the whole, like, there's the possibility that I'm gonna get shot doing this versus there's a possibility I'm gonna get caught and like sent to jail for a certain amount of time, then they'll release me and then I'll be able to try again somewhere else, I guess. Yeah, a cultural choice. Yeah, I would agree with that. Particularly here in Texas, it's definitely a cultural choice, right? As compared to our Canadian friends up north, and just from looking at this bill, it is 100% a culture thing. And I guess, it kind of comes down to just being part of the Wild West in the past, right? Where, like, everybody was armed. Like, everybody was armed because you didn't have, like, the ability to, like, call in, like, the marshals or the rangers, like, they were all over the place, but it'd take a long time for them to get to a new place. right? And you had like sheriffs and stuff, and the sheriff was really just kind of in charge of, you know, keeping the peace. And you had deputies that he could deputize and stuff like that. But most people are like, yo, I live in a place that's like kind of out of town. Indians or bandits or yeah, those kind of people, they can come through, and if they want to, they can kill me. I need to be able to like at least put up some kind of a fight. You think we have under 10 burglaries in the country last year? Because it's kind of hard to get through iron bars. Yeah. Oh, we have vigilante corps here too, actually, but only like batons. Wow. That's, I don't know. That's a little, a little concerning, I think. I mean, like, to your point about, I guess, like getting through iron bars and stuff. Um, what is it? Oh, burglaries. It's nice to have like a low amount of burglaries, but and like most people do kind of stay armed in case like somebody's trying to like bust into their place. They can like scare them off and stuff like that. Um, oh, but what is it? What is it? What is it? You know, actually, I don't really have anything. I don't really have anything. I think that's nice. Uh, but yeah, like I mean, sometimes like okay, like for instance, like when I was in high school, right, I'd sneak out, right, and like going through the door was you know, not necessarily the best way of sneaking out, you know. So going out the window was a lot easier, right? So I guess we're more about like being able to go in and out of our windows, I suppose. That's why we maybe, you know, don't admit that we like them to not have bars on them. But like sometimes you accidentally lock yourself out. Like, I accidentally locked myself out of my apartment once in Albuquerque, and I was like, oh shit. So I literally climbed the wall into like the pool area where I had a balcony, and then I climbed up into my balcony because I left my balcony unlocked because I kind of kept it open all the time because I would smoke inside and just kind of get the air, right? Sam, you locked yourself out too. They just help mostly with crowd control and petty crimes with only real power being citizens arrest until real cops come. 24/7 locksmiths are great being in a tiny city. See, I don't live in a tiny city. I live in a fucking giant ass city. Millions and millions and millions of people, you know. It's just like, and Singapore is a big city too. That's a huge city, right? But you know, as you can see, like I guess maybe if you've seen it, we got people here in the States that just like they don't like police. They don't like them. They don't know how to really interact with them. Honestly, that's why they don't understand or like them. That's how I see it. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny. It's smaller than Austin. Well, Austin's a pretty big city. Well, I mean, Austin's not that small, right? Right? Yeah, I've been to Austin. Austin's, you know, it's a fair sized city. Oh wait, it's the same size. Oh, okay. Yeah, not too bad. Um, all right, hold on. So search and seizure without warrant. This is just a kind of a repeat of the earlier section where if an order has been applied to an individual and he's surrendered his guns or they've seized his guns, if a police officer has any reasonable belief that he needs to search the premises again, he can search it again, and he doesn't need to get a warrant for it. And then he's supposed to bring that stuff to a judge. That's kind of what this says. Whether there's a warrant or not, he's supposed to surrender that stuff, which honestly is just kind of room for abuse. Officer searches the place without a warrant, takes whatever the heck he wants, keeps it for himself. This guy's like, yo, this dude searched my house without a warrant. Cop's like, no, I didn't search this house without a warrant. Like, where's the evidence? You know, it's just like, it's just so easily to be abused. I'm just abuse just written all over this. That's all. That's all. Requirement to surrender. right? Like this is the, you know, if the order is made against the person, then they have to surrender their stuff to the officer, or they'll, search the stuff. And once again, just the language is like, it's not desirable in the interest of the safety of any person for the person to possess the thing. And it's just kind of like, like it's not desirable. It's not desirable for safety. It's just like you're taking away somebody's means of self-defense because it's not desirable for their safety. Doesn't make sense to me. Does not make sense to me. Austin is 704 kilometers squared with 950K pop, but Singapore is 728 kilometers squared with, population density. Right? That's kind of what I was saying earlier. You guys are much more dense. Right? We don't have that here. We're not dense here in terms of population, right? Like right? If you had people all around you all the time, it is kind of hard to commit a crime and get away with it because everybody's right there next to you, right? Your walls are this thin. People next door are gonna be like, "Oh, sounds like a murder." It's just like, shit. You wouldn't be able to get away with anything. You wouldn't be able to jerk off without somebody else knowing about it. It's just like one of those things. Okay. Conditions. Once again, this is really just, there's only a 30-day period, right? So these orders can only last for a maximum 30 days is what I can see from this, what I can tell, right? No, the walls are minimum 30 centimeters concrete. It's mandated by the government. They want to make sure people could, at least get some privacy then, huh? That's good. That's good. Anything seized under subsection 5 or 6 from a person shall be returned, right? If the order is revoked at the expiry period, right, in the order made. So maybe it's not a 30-day period. Maybe the 30-day period is just to provide the judge like time in order to set a hearing, right? It seems to me that like the court at any time can be like, okay, well, I'm gonna just say that your guns should be held onto. You should be without them for, let's say, 6 months. Let's say a year. Let's say 10 years, right? Like there doesn't seem to be anything in here that necessarily says that anything otherwise, right? And so once again, this thing is just so vague, and it just seems so abusive. I just see abuse all over this bill. Sorry, my Canadian friends, but like you're about to be abused. If this passes, which I'm not sure if it has passed. I mean, February 16, 2021, probably may have already passed. Like, sorry guys. I'm certainly glad this isn't happening in Texas. Man, holy shit. This is just so vague. So broad. There's just so much abuse. It's just like there's no time frame, like limited. There's no time limit for like how long your stuff can be held onto. I feel like that'd be a kind of important thing to put in a law. I could have sworn they did like 30 days, but I could be wrong about their interpretation there. Man. Once again, it just kind of just clarifies again. Did I already go through this? Did I end up scrolling back up? Where basically a peace officer, firearms officer, chief firearms officer makes the application, then the attorney general of the province is going to become the applicant in their place. It's really dumb. It's written in a way such that it can be abused, right? If you're trying to, kind of be hardcore like gun control on people, right? Then you don't really want to write a rule or write a law that's really precise, to the point, has everything, like has exceptions, has time limits, like sentencing limits and stuff like that. If you really just want to give the government more power, then this is the kind of thing you do, right? It's written poorly. Yes, exactly. But that's done on purpose. That's done on purpose, right? It's not that they're incompetent. It's that they know exactly what they're doing, right? It's kind of what they do in, at least what I hear they do in China, right? Where they write just a very vague law, and so it can literally be enforced to whoever the heck they want to enforce it, whenever the heck they want. They can do any punishment they want. They can do anything they want because the law is just very vague, and that's what's happened here. And that's kind of what Trudeau's government is. His administration is. They're kind of part of that group that think the centralized authority idea of like China is what creates wealth. They think that the people can't create an economy without the government basically doing it, and it's just like, golly, that's just what I see. They think the centralized power is what is what works the most effectively, but it's not true. It's never been true, right? And so, in order to make their government not seem as bad, they'll just change the definition, right? If they want to, like in China, if they want to raise like 150 million people out of poverty, they'll just change the definition of poverty. There you have it. Out of poverty, just like that. Stroke of a pen. Magic. It won't be able to pass in the UK or Singapore. Yeah, it wouldn't be able to pass in the US either. They got to be real specific. Well, yeah, but we'll see what happens in Canada. It depends, right? It depends, because we got people in the US that are power hungry too. It's kind of the same everywhere. UK, I feel like you got some power hungry people over there too, but it probably wouldn't be able to pass because it's just so vague. But those people have a lot of sense. Our Canadian friends, poor fellas. We'll see. We'll see what happens, right? To quote the legislators here, if the law cannot be understood, it cannot be followed. Yeah, that's just it, right? Sometimes they are trying to make laws that are so vague, so complicated that the everyday people can't understand them, and that they can basically apply the law in any way that they want to anybody at any time with any punishment of any measure. Now, okay, so provincial court judge may, on application by a person against whom the order is made, revoke the order. So, if you've had one of these orders applied to you, you can apply to have the order revoked. And I mean, it just, okay, so that's what they have to do in order to get these orders gone. And this is just ensuring that people that are employed by the Bank of Canada or Royal Canadian Mint, who are like security personnel, that they, are kind of not subject to this law, right? That they, have these weapons for security purposes, and so therefore these really don't apply to them, right? And the Firearms Act is just amendments to this old act, and I'll tell you, this thing, it's really just making sure that anybody who was previously authorized to possess prohibited firearms is still able to possess those firearms. However, they do have a provision in here where I guess in Canada, what you have to do is you have to apply for your license on a yearly basis or like a 3-year basis. And so if you applied like last year and you got it accepted, then eventually they can just deny your application for your license renewal, and then when you can't get your license renewed, then you have to give up your gun. Is basically what it is, which that's kind of screwed up. I feel like there should be some grandfather clauses in here, but they really just kind of create the situation where they can just deny you, the ability to possess it anymore. Oh boy. But yeah, this whole thing this isn't necessarily of that much interest because it kind of just deals with transporting licenses, importing, exporting, just making sure that you have the right paperwork, right? That you're honest in your paperwork. It applies to firearms, ammunition, all that stuff. It doesn't really matter whether or not you're Canadian or not. It's just about whether or not you have the right paperwork and the right licensing, and that's kind of what just this whole thing is, right? And yeah, of course they got they got the system where it's still like you got to report to your chief firearms officer about whether or not you take your gun to your business, keep it in your home. They got to kind of know where you keep your guns at, but at the same time, they allow for people to be able to transport their weapons throughout the province, like just freely and openly, so that they can go to gun ranges and all this other stuff, like gun shooting competitions and stuff like that. Emperor Justinian seems to have been lost of the legislatures in Canada. Lost on Emperor Justinian seems to be lost on the legislators in Canada. I don't know who Justinian is. I don't know who Justinian is, to be perfectly honest. But in Canada, yeah, things have just slipped down a slippery slope. Is all. Okay, here, wait, I'll get that up. Justinian the First, Eastern Roman Emperor, 15. All right, I will check him out later. That'll be some good reading. Guy came up with the Modern Laws Foundations. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to check that out. I always enjoy reading history. Although I have been meaning to hop on the FBI website, see what kind of nuggets of information they got in there. Last time I went on there, I found like where they were talking about North Korean hackers. That was an interesting section. Right. So this whole part is really just same old, same old. It's not really too much happening here. At least I didn't find anything of particular interest in this. The main part of this bill is the first part where it talks about the criminal code in terms of like prohibited firearms, and where it kind of mentions the 157.4 meters per second muzzle velocity, or like 5.7 joules of energy. It's just like, what the hell are you doing? And then they have the order part. And this part is all about just registering, licensing, just little tidbits of stuff. There's nothing. This is really nothing, as far as I can tell. Right? Oh, except for the advertising. Except for the advertising part. This was actually pretty interesting. This might be more relevant, the Code of Justinian, than the person himself. Okay. I think I have heard of the Code of Justinian. I haven't read it. I'll go ahead and I'll pull it up, add that to my reading in the future. There we go. Just popped up on the other tab I have behind the Twitch client. Now the advertising. Now I don't know if this law was in effect before, but like every business or every person referred to below commits an offense that advertises a firearm in a manner that depicts, counsels, or promotes violence against a person. All right. So this is kind of ridiculous. Where they in advertisement, if they depict violence, counsels violence against a person or promotes violence. Now I don't know of any advertisement that promotes violence against people that doesn't come from a government, to be perfectly honest. Depicting violence, like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. course, I try to get away from ads as much as possible. So maybe there's some ads out there that depict violence against people that I don't know about, particularly in Canada. Like, I'm just curious as to what brought this law about. Like, if anything, in fact, did happen that brought this law about, or if they're just, because if they're talking about speech is violence, right? Then I don't know. I just found it interesting that they want to prohibit ads that counsels violence against a person. Like what depicts, promotes, counsels. It's just very vague, very broad language. Remember, words are violence now. Yeah, that's what they're trying to tell me. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't believe it. I don't understand the rationale for it because there is no rationale for it. But that's what they keep that's what they keep telling me. I'm just gonna go ahead and call BS on that because makes no sense, right? A person who has a relationship with a person referred to and who has a direct influence on the operation of the business. See, that is so vague. That made me think that like somebody's wife could be jailed because they work in because that wife's husband works in an advertisement agency that like depicted, counsels, or promoted violence against a person. I just think it's ridiculous. All right, just storage of handguns, disposal of ammunition. If you try to like import ammunition, but you like lie on your paperwork or you don't have the right licensing, then the guys are gonna take that ammunition, and they have multiple choices. They can let you go back and get the proper licensing and stuff, or they can just destroy it, dispose of it legally, and that's pretty much it, as far as I remember. Right? If you try to import it, they can hold on to it and give you time to get your paperwork in order, or they can just destroy it, just dispose of it. Right? This Nuclear Safety and Control Act, this is just about making sure that security personnel at these high security nuclear sites are able to have the firearms that they need. That's pretty much it. Talk about training, but of course these people are going to be on. I mean, I say of course they're going to be trained, but we are talking about some seemingly incompetent people who write these laws. Right? It's just like use of force. They're able to use force because it's a high security place. They're able to detain people. They're able to arrest people. Immigrant and Refugee Protection Act. Like, basically what this says is that they don't have to allow people into the country who have violated, who are they're inadmissible on grounds of security, organized criminality, violating human or international rights, or transborder criminality. Right? So the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, oddly enough, denies immigrations from immigrating if they've done these things, right? So, I mean, I guess it's just a way for them to say that these foreign nationals are inadmissible on these grounds. But I guess, they're admissible on other grounds, but at the same time, it seems like they've given themselves room to wiggle around in that. Right? Reasonable suspicion, right? Minister is taking necessary to inquire into a reasonable suspicion that they are inadmissible on these grounds. And that's basically what this is. It's just like these people are inadmissible on these grounds. All right? Automatic authorization to transport. It's just this little thing here. It's just like if you hold a license authorizing you to possess the firearms or the handguns, right? If the license is renewed, be authorized to transport them within the province. However, this kind of makes it to where, like, if it's not renewed, then you're not authorized to do this. And they do have this law where you have to kind of constantly get this renewal, and I forget what the time frame is, but you have to do it. Yeah. Talking about handgun transfers, this shooting club or shooting range and the boundaries. It's just, yeah, stuff that's you would think is pretty just common sense stuff. It's nothing really important. And that's that. That's been Bill C-21, where they've criminalized certain firearm possession, made it possible for the general public to seek orders against people to take away their guns. So that's how you do it, right? If you really wanted to take people's guns away as the government, you just make it legal for the general public to have people's guns taken away for a certain amount of time, right? And just use the public to do it. It's just tiring. Well, this has been interesting. One of those things is just crazy vague, and just the opportunity for abuse is insane. But anyway, thank you very much. I've got some reading I'm going to need to do here on Justinian. I'll be happy to do that. But for right now, I'm going to take a break. Well, take a break. This is the end of the stream. I'll be back not tonight, but tomorrow night, because I'm doing these political streams like every other day. Oh my gosh. I'm going to eat some pizza. Do some other stuff. Maybe play some video games. I need to work on. I need to write. I need to do some more writing. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for the chats. Thanks for the follow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.